Good day, esteemed viewers. My name is Damilola Egunjobi, a law graduate of Ekiti State University and a graduate intern at HARLEM Solicitors. Today, I will be delivering a lecture on consumers' remedy to poor quality of service under Nigerian laws. Please note that this is in relation to telecommunications in Nigeria. So, in today's lecture, we'll be discussing briefly on what telecommunications is. We'll also be talking about the laws regulating telecommunications in Nigeria, as well as the laws that have been put in place to protect consumers. We'll probably be looking at who a consumer is, the rights of a consumer under the law. We'll also be looking at the remedies and steps to be taken by unsatisfied consumers. So now, what is telecommunications? Telecommunications is referred to as the transfer or the exchange of information via electronic or electrical means over a network and over a significant distance. Telecommunication services, according to International Telecommunications Union, which is the ITU, is referred to as the general names for services provided or services offered by service providers over a telecommunications network. So now we'll move to the laws regulating telecommunications in Nigeria, as well as the laws protecting consumers in Nigeria. The primary legislation regulating telecommunications in Nigeria is the Nigerian Communications Act 2003, and after referred to as the NCA 2003. The NCA 2003 established the Nigerian Communications Commission, which is the NCC, which is the body, the sole regulator of telecommunications in Nigeria. And then when we talk about the Consumers Protection Act, we're talking about the Quality of Service Regulations 2013. We're talking about the Dispute Resolution Guidelines of 2004. We also made the Consumers Code of Protection Act of 2007, as well as the FCCPA, which is the Federal Competition and Consumers Protection Act 2018. So now, we'll move to who a consumer is under the law. Who is a consumer? Do you think you are a consumer just because you own a mobile phone or because you are a citizen of this country? Well, according to Section 157 of the NCA 2003, a consumer has been defined as any person who subscribes to or uses a communication service. The implication of this definition of Section 157 of the NCA 2003 is that only the subscriber of a telecommunication service can be regarded and referred to as consumers of the telecommunication service, even when the service subscribed to is being used by a different person. The definition of Section 157 of the NCA 2003 has been criticized and said to be restrictive and excludes persons who uses telecommunications but are by themselves not subscribers. So now, what are the rights you are entitled to as a consumer? Now that you know that you are a consumer of telecommunications, what are the rights you are entitled to in Nigeria? You have so many rights which has been established and provided for in the NCA 2003 and the numerous regulations and guidelines. So now we have so many rights, which includes but not limited to right to information, right to privacy and protection of personal information. You have right to fair charges and adequate billing. You have right to adequate service. So now we'll be discussing these rights. Rights to information. Paragraph 6 of the code provides that your service providers have been obligated to provide certain information to their customers as regards their services. As a consumer, you have this right. Your service providers are to provide you information as regards some services. And this information cannot just be anyhow information. This information must be complete. The information must be adequate. The information must be up to date. And this information, of course, must be in a clear and simple language. So we talk about the right to privacy and protection of personal information. As you all know, as a consumer of telecommunications, your information will be requested for at every point, maybe when you want to register your SIM card and a lot more. This information includes your name, your age, your date of birth, your place of birth, your nationality, even your NIN, your religion, and lots more. So your service provider has an obligation to protect this information from an abuse from a third party. As a matter of fact, your information cannot be transferred to a third party without your permission or the commission's permission or as required by the applicable laws. So now we'll talk about the right to fair charges and adequate billings. As a consumer, Your right must not be violated when it comes to billings and charges. It must be fair. And these billings must be complete. It must be up to date. And it must be verified. And information must be made available on these bills. Or when you request for an information, it must be made available to you without any charge at all. So now we move to the other right to talk about, which is the right to quality service. This is provided for under Section 104 to Section 106 of the NCA 2003. And so this established the QSR that we made mention of earlier on. And this QSR was established to promote and protect the consumer's right against unfair practices. It was established to protect you as a consumer in making necessary information and verified information. So now, when we talk about poor quality of service, what exactly does this mean? As a consumer, there are times you must have decided to maybe call your mom or your friend. Let's take for instance, you woke up 1 a.m. to put a call across to your mom. And then exactly 1 a.m., you called your mom. But still, you could not get across to your mom. Not because you do not have sufficient airtime, but because of network issue. You've just suffered poor quality of service. Your boss sent a message to you at exactly 9 a.m. And the instruction on the message is that you must reply by 10 a.m. So 10 a.m. you decide to send this message to your boss. And of course, you click the send button. But 11 a.m. this message is even yet to be delivered. 12 noon is yet to be delivered. You just suffered poor quality of service. You're in a conversation with your friend. Let's take for instance, you're in Ekiti State and you're in a conversation with your friend who is in Oyo State. And fine, you'll be discussing whether relevant or irrelevant matter, it depends on you. Then all of a sudden, you can no longer air this friend of yours. Not because you've exhausted your airtime or because your friend has exhausted his airtime, but because of network issue. You've just suffered poor quality of service. And as a consumer in telecommunications, you're entitled to certain remedies because your right has been violated. Your right has been infringed. So then, what can you do? There is a provision that's made in QSR 2013 that service providers are obligated to resolve all consumers' complaints within a specified time frame as stipulated in the QSR or as may be approved by the NCC. Also, upon the publishing of the NCA 2003, the NCC has powers to settle disputes between parties who are subject to the NCA 2003. So now, because you've suffered from poor quality of service, the NCC has the power to interfere or to involve itself in these disputes. However, as a consumer, even though you can actually approach the Federal High Court of Justice, there are some things you must do. There are some steps that must be followed. For you to approach the Federal High Court, you must first of all obtain a statement of reason from the NCC. This statement of reasons contains the decision of the NCC as regards the dispute. So if you are still not satisfied with this statement of reasons provided by the NCC, you can thereafter return back to NCC for a review of this statement of reasons. And having done that, this review must also be followed by the grounds upon which this decision must be reviewed or must be reconsidered before you can thereafter approach the Federal High Court. However, parties are not mandatorily bound to follow this. As a consumer whose right has been violated, you can decide not to go to the NCC. But then, simply because you feel Section 73 of the NCA has empowered the NCC to involve or interfere in disputes does not mean the NCC now will just interfere in any dispute or any telecommunication dispute. For the NCC to be involved in this dispute, you must first of all have exhausted all procedures, all negotiation procedures between yourself and the other party in this dispute. And of course, there must be a written letter of invitation to the NCC, informing them about the dispute and for them to be involved in these disputes. So have it at the back of your mind that the fact that the NCC has the power as enshrined in Section 73 of the Act does not mean it can interfere in any dispute whatsoever. So in conclusion, as a consumer, you have certain rights, as earlier stated. And these rights, when trampled upon, when infringed or violated, you have a right. You have remedies to be sorted, but these remedies must be sorted according to the steps provided by the NCA 2003. For more information about this topic and subsequent articles, you can visit our website at www.harlemsolicitors.com or our social media handles at HARLEM Solicitors. Thank you so much for watching.